Welcome to episode 1 of the Self-Love Conundrum. Why is it so hard to truly love ourselves? That's like the bigger question for this overall podcast. And it's not the only subject we're going to cover because I have opened the door to my friends, my families, and people in my Facebook group that I don't yet know well enough to call friends, but people who I care about deeply. And I am allowing them to ask the questions. So I go into my group, I post a post and ask them, what is it you would like to have a podcast on? And they are the ones who are asking the questions. And so the question that we have is currently around living and growing up with a parent that's a narcissist and not feeling that love, therefore now as an adult, not loving themselves. So how do you learn to love yourself? That's the core question here of this episode. How do you learn to love yourself when you've grown up in an environment that was lacking love? And this is a really, really valid question. So many people grow up in environments, whether their parent was a narcissist or whether their parent just was dysfunctional or didn't show love openly. There are many different things that could be happening in your parents' world and what happened in their childhood that brings forward their behavior today. That doesn't excuse what happened. It doesn't excuse their behavior. However, typically this is a generational passed down thing. I know even in my own family that we had some of that come down from my great grandmother to my grandmother, from my grandmother to my mother, and from my mother to us. Would I say she was a full-blown narcissist? Maybe. I don't know that I feel like she was completely a narcissist as much as she was someone who didn't know necessarily how to emotionally love you, so she tried to buy you gifts. And I don't know if I want to go as far as to say she tried to buy your love. Maybe. But in this particular case, I can just say that when she didn't treat you necessarily well, she did try to buy a gift as a token, like of appreciation or of love. It's really a token of love, I think. But neither here nor there. This story isn't my own. This is a question from someone who isn't me. And we're just going to take a look at some of these things and then we're going to go through. How do you learn to love yourself? And it's really a series of small shifts, a series of realizations, and being open to receive the information and take that to go and take some action with. Because in and of ourselves, we are born loving. So when we are born, we desire the love from others, but we already have a love for ourselves. And then as we grow, we experience things in our lives that can alter how we feel about ourselves, and we learn from others how we maybe should feel about ourselves or how they feel we should feel about ourselves. And we forget that what's most important is how we truly feel about ourselves. We start to seek gratification and validation from others because that's kind of how it works. There's a give and take in that relationship. But as a child, we often really rely on that validation. And when we don't receive it, that puts us askew. And therein, we start to have some challenges in loving ourselves and feeling worthy and feeling enough and feeling confident. This becomes a lack of self-love. A lack of self-love is also a lack of self-trust, a lack of self-awareness, a lack of self-empowerment. The list goes on and on and on. We no longer value ourselves because we don't love ourselves enough to feel we are valuable. And of course, if you grow up and you're not shown love, it's hard to feel it. This totally makes sense if you really look at it. So here's what we want to do. We want to recognize that not being loved by someone does not mean that you're not lovable. You are 100% lovable. You deserve love, and you deserve to receive love. So then, how do we turn ourselves in the direction of learning to love ourselves, learning to receive love? One thing that I ask my clients to do, if they don't bring it up already themselves, but if we aren't experiencing love from a parent, maybe even both parents, at somewhere, let's look through your life, look through your childhood specifically, and find a person who loved you. And it may not be a relative. It may be a friend. It may be an aunt. It may be a grandmother. It may be, for people who went to church, it may be your pastor or, the choir director. It could be anyone, but there's someone. Almost always there's someone that you received some love from. And it may not have been someone that you saw frequently enough for it, but there's almost always a base where we can find where someone has experienced love. And it may not be from their parents or even their immediate family, but there's an experience of love there. And from there, I ask you to connect. Connect with that feeling. Remember that person. Remember how you felt when you were around that person. Because we want to take the feeling, a feeling you have of love. Perhaps you can't think of a person. Okay, let's go to an animal. Animals love unconditionally. 100% they love unconditionally. And maybe not wild animals, okay? So let's not go down that road. But let's just stick with, let's say if you had a dog or you had a cat. Maybe you had a larger pet, like a horse or a goat or a cow. Any number of animals that can show love. I have had I've run the gamut of pets in my life, and all of them, even my pet skunk. I had a pet skunk in my early 20s. Even my pet skunk showed love. So every single animal that you encounter, maybe it was someone else's pet, someone whose house you visited a lot. Maybe it was a one-time encounter, but you felt that love because animals love unconditionally. And honestly, my own personal experience, when you've had trauma and you have some dysregulation in your nervous system, animals pick up on that. Now, it could be, if it's extreme, it could send the animal in the opposite direction. It might scare them because you might feel super intense. You might be carrying some negativity. Horses are super sensitive to those kind of things. So if you've ever been around a horse, kind of pay attention to what it does, how it reacts to you. And that could give you an idea of what kind of energy that you're putting out there. But my point being here, let's go back because I could talk all day long about so many things. Let's get back over here to learning how to love ourselves. Find that spot, find that person, that animal, that moment that you can recall as early as possible in your childhood and internalize that feeling. Feel that feeling to your core. Remember that feeling and embody it, take it with you, and bring it back into your present tense. That is love. And you can love yourself to that same level and to that same feeling with just a little bit of work, a little bit of tweaking how you're thinking, and then changing some of your daily habits. So before we go through some daily habits that you can shift and some mindset shifts to bring you back around to that self-love, let's take a look at just a little bit of what self-love isn't, what we often think self-love is. We often think that self-love means that you're constantly confident, that you have no fears, you have no doubts, everything is rainbows and butterflies, the unicorns are flying through the sky, you know, that the world is perfect. And that indeed is not what true self-love is. You're not going to always feel good about yourself, but you are going to love yourself regardless of how you feel. You're going to love yourself regardless of what the world looks like around you. If the world is on fire, which it kind of is right now, you are not going to be like, I can't love myself because the world's on fire. You're going to be like, I do love myself regardless of the fact that the world is on fire. And you don't even have to say it that way because some people are like, oh, the self-love, oh my God, it's so ego. It's not. Self-love is the core foundation of everything in your life. And when you really dig down in there and you find your true, authentic love for yourself, you will start to realize that you're valuable, that you're lovable, not just to you loving yourself, but for other people to love you. It's easier to love other people when you love yourself. You'll see things from a different perspective. Because when you don't love yourself, it's hard to look at anything in a loving way. You can fake it till you make it. I did that for a while in my life, 100%. But you don't need to. Let's just find our way back into it. But I wanted to just to show you that self-love doesn't mean that instantaneously the world is just going to become cotton candy and popcorn. Maybe those aren't your things. Whatever your things are. The world does look better when you have a solid self-love. 100% it does. So what is self-love besides all the things I just said? Self-love is being with yourself, staying with yourself even when the world is on fire. Not abandoning yourself is another way to say that. Staying with yourself, being with yourself, not abandoning yourself. And quite frankly, when you love yourself at the deepest level, you are totally comfortable being alone. You don't need that validation. You may desire to have someone in your life, desire to have friends, because it's lovely to be social. We are social creatures. So there's a certain amount of social that makes sense. And some people are more, some people are less. And that's not necessarily having to do with self-love because some people are just more introverted and some people are more extroverted. All of that aside, when you have that self-love, you're comfortable in your own skin and with your own company. And when you love yourself, you are the priority. You prioritize your needs. That doesn't mean that you can't help people. It doesn't mean you can't serve people. It does not mean you cannot give or be generous or be gracious or be kind or compassionate. What it does mean is that you recognize your needs and you're willing to put them above some of the things in your life, or most of the things in your life that are not as important as your needs. They often say, you cannot fill other people's cup when your cup is empty. Empty. And this is very true. So, let's take a step back. How do we get to self-love? So self-love bleeds into self-trust and self-awareness and self-empowerment. But we're going to go to self-trust because self-trust and self-love, they're almost parallel. And they definitely intertwine on a deeper level, because if you don't love yourself, it's going to be very hard to trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, it's going to be very hard to love yourself. So let's go with, how do we trust ourselves? How do we have self-trust? Self-trust means that you honor your feelings, keeping your promises to yourself. And I'm just going to step out here and say, when we have trouble keeping promises to others, it typically means we have trouble keeping promises to ourselves. We are most likely to betray ourselves before we betray others. So recognize those two key pieces here: self-trust, keeping promises to yourself, hitting your deadlines that you set for yourself. Are you missing your deadlines? There's a lack of self-trust here, and that's a lack of self-love as well. Letting your voice matter, knowing your voice matters, speaking about important things, things that are important to you. They may not be important to anyone else, but they're important to you, and your voice matters. You are here on this planet for a reason. Your voice matters, especially when you are compelled to speak about something. Your voice matters. Trust yourself to know that someone out there needs to hear what it is that you're saying, and that it's time for you to speak it. And then honoring your feelings. I think I already said that, but we're going to go back to it. Honoring your feelings. If you feel sad, feel sad. It's okay to feel sad. You don't want to live there. Find a way to bring yourself back out of sadness, but it is 100% positive for you to acknowledge the feelings you have. So, if you're feeling sad, you can even say, I feel sad. Expressing how you feel, this is where your voice matters too, even if it's just to your own self. I feel sad. That will lift some of that sadness right off of you by simply expressing it and saying it. Same with if you're angry. Say, I feel angry. If you're excited, say, I feel excited. That's going to actually help you feel more excited. I feel good. You know, when you feel yourself feeling sad, express it. I feel sad. And then can you take it to just a step higher? Okay, I felt sad. Now I feel a little neutral. Or I feel a little better. And then start feeling a little bit higher up the scale until you get to where you can say, I feel good. I feel great. I feel joy. I feel love. I feel happy. Even just those tiny little steps, you can actually stair-step yourself right out of sadness and depression and pull yourself back out. Now, I'm not saying, before anyone comes at me with you can't talk yourself out of depression. I'm not talking about deep, dark depression where you really should see a doctor and receive medication or therapy or whatever it is that you desire in order to help with your deep, dark depression. I'm talking about if you're feeling sad, you're feeling depressed, and this is something that is like, oh, I feel depressed, and there could even be a reason for it, that you can start talking yourself back out of it. Because what we're talking about here is self-love and self-trust. But expressing your feelings is a big part of loving yourself and trusting yourself. We are healthier when we express how we feel, even if we only express it to ourselves. The next step in your self-trust and your self-love journey is to start expressing yourself to others. If they say something that hits you a certain way and you feel a certain way afterwards. I'm not going to say they say something that makes you feel. I feel like we should take responsibility. Someone said something, it hit you a certain way, and now you feel this way. They didn't make you feel that way because no one can make you feel a certain way without your permission. So we're just going to go with, someone said something, it hit you a certain way, you now feel this way. You can look right at them and say, oh wow, you said that and now I feel blank. You're not blaming them. You're not going, oh my God, what you said just made me sad. You're merely stating the emotion that you're feeling right now. That's healthy communication. People are not necessarily going to like it. Why will they not like it? Because it's not the norm. We are not raised, most of us are not raised to speak our, our emotions that make other people uncomfortable. But it is not your responsibility to make people comfortable. It's your responsibility to yourself to feel loved and to express when you don't feel loved, even if it's you not loving yourself, or even if it's just an emotion that could lead you down to a road that's going to it may just change how you feel for a brief moment, but it could lead to something bigger. It could lead you down a road. You've already experienced childhood where you didn't have self-love, but you didn't necessarily experience love from your own parents or from someone who was very close in your environment during your childhood. Oftentimes that continues as you grow into your adulthood. You already have, you're working your way out of that situation. You're working your way out of that lack of love and that lack of self-love. So we want to express our emotions and we want to do it in a way that is not accusatory to the person who said something that quote unquote triggered you. But we do want to express it. Maybe you don't express it to them if you don't feel like that that's a healthy way to do it. Maybe you can be like, oh, that person wouldn't take this well. So instead of expressing it to them, I'm just going to say it to myself. I feel sad. What they said hit me in a way that made me feel sad. Not they made me feel sad, but what they said hit me in a way and now I feel sad. I'm not gonna, I am very big on words and I do very many times say words matter because they do. But if you say, you know what, that person said something and it hit me and that made me sad, go with that for right now because we're in a process here. So you're not going to always get the words right and let's not be perfectionists and go back and beat ourselves up for that. And here is another piece to self-love and self-trust. Stop beating yourself up. This is not the time when you are going to be so critical of yourself that you nitpick everything apart. We are going to allow ourselves some grace because this is a learning process. We are learning to love ourselves. We are learning to love ourselves so deeply and to trust ourselves so deeply that we can bring ourselves out of this unworthy feeling that we're feeling and that we've felt most of our lives. So all that said, I just want to remind you that this is a journey. It's a journey of becoming whole. It's returning to love, restoring your self-trust, and remembering that you were never unworthy. You are worthy. You're 100% worthy of love. You're 100% worthy of love from others and 1,000,000% worthy of love from yourself. These are a few steps in the journey. My last thing I'm going to encourage you to take this as quote unquote homework, if you would say. Homework from a podcast. I don't know. Is that normal? I couldn't tell you. I don't recall ever having homework from a podcast I've listened to. I feel like this is a really important piece that helps you to build love and joy, even just love and joy, even if we don't go, oh, build self-love, it will turn around your mood. And that's a really important piece when you're feeling a lack of self-love and then you feel sad, you feel unworthy, you feel not enough, you feel unvaluable. let's just go with a couple things that you can do every day. Start a routine or a ritual. I like rituals. I like to call it a ritual. A lot of people have rituals already. You get up every morning, a lot of people drink coffee. They go, they make their coffee, they sit, they read the newspaper, or they scroll their phone, whatever the case may be. I challenge you to get up in the morning and make a list. Not a list of things to do, a list of things you're grateful for. A list, 3 to 5 things every day, morning and night, of things that you're grateful for. It can be the smallest thing. It could be that you have a sunny day. It could be that you have a rainy day, because sometimes we need rain. So rather than looking at the rain as a bad thing, let's look at the rain as, hey, we're having a rainy day today. As a matter of fact, where I live, we are having a rainy day today, but we've had several sunny days, and it's been amazing. And we need to be green, so the rain must be here. So a sunny day and a rainy day are equally beneficial. So it could be so simple. The sun is out. The sky is blue. I have fresh air. I have running water. Do you know that there's still a very large population of people on this earth who don't have running water? So many people don't have running water, and you do. I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you have running water. Maybe it's not running right this particular second. Maybe there's been, an outage or something. But in general, you have running water in most places that would be listening to me, I should say. So simple, just simple things. You can list people that you're grateful for. You can list things. You can list your pets. You can list, hey, I'm so grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm so grateful that my car started when I went to work. When you make your list at night, you can be grateful for things that happen during the day. Or you can be grateful for a good night's sleep that you anticipate you're going to have. You can set yourself up for success by appreciating a good night's sleep before you actually have it. You can set yourself up for success in the morning by appreciating having the most fabulous day before you even leave for work. Or if you work from home, before you go and do your work at your house. Little things, just small things of gratitude. 3 to 5, morning and night. And then I want you to take a moment and make a list of 3 things that are going right in your life. Morning and night. Really important that 3 things are going right, because sometimes we get stuck and we feel like nothing is going right. And we need that reminder that there are things that went right. You woke up this morning, you're still breathing. Thank heavens we have an involuntary nervous system that keeps us breathing and our heart beating without us having to actually keep telling it to breathe and beat. There's so much in life that we don't notice that we can be grateful for, and that is going right. And there's almost always going to be something that isn't going right, but let's remember we can make a long list of what's going right on almost any given day. And if you're having struggles with what is going right, go to the very basics. I'm breathing. I woke up this morning. My heart is still beating. The sky didn't fall overnight. The grass is still green. Some really, really basic stuff. Because when you are struggling to find something that's going right because it feels like the world is falling apart, and I'm not saying that lightly because I have been through the tower moment, I don't know, 4 times in the last year at least, and those were big tower moments, not little tower moments. So when I say something is almost always going askew, that's okay. That's life. That's life lifing. Life is going to life. Let's recognize what's going good. Let's recognize what's going right. And let's recognize what we're grateful for, what we can see, what miracles are in our life. Do we remember that we're a miracle in ourselves? The odds are against us ever being born, if you look at the science of it all. So those are two lists that I would like for you. I challenge you to make those lists, do them for 1 week. Let's go right, we're going to even go deeper here. We're going to go one step further. Not another list, but before you make your first list, or maybe even right now, how are you feeling? Where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? With 10 feeling the best you could ever feel in the world, and 1 feeling the worst you could ever feel in the world. Make that note on your notebook when you start writing your list. And the next morning, check in with yourself again. And maybe make a note on how you're feeling that day. You don't have to, this isn't an exercise for you to be like, oh, I can just say I'm feeling so much better. I'm going to win. You're winning if you're doing the exercise. There is no winning at the end of the week other than feeling better than where you started. And the only way that is a win if you are authentically feeling better than where you started. And I will tell you 100%, if you do this twice a day, every day, you will feel better at the end of the week. Unless something catastrophic happened in your life, which I hope that doesn't happen. Just because I would never wish catastrophic events happening in anyone's life. Do this list. 2 lists, 3 to 5 things, morning and night. What you're grateful for and what is going right. And we'll add something else to that list, perhaps on another day with another episode. But for today, I just want to leave you with you are so worthy of all the love that there is in the world. You are worthy. You're valuable. You're enough. You're more than enough. You are more than enough. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and listening to this podcast, for truly receiving the love that I am sending you in this podcast, for sharing this podcast if you feel called to share it with someone that you love, someone that you feel could use this information, that it might help someone. Or if you decide to share it on your Facebook, or on your Instagram, or on your TikTok. What are the other ones? I've even forgotten. Share it wherever it is that you feel compelled to share it. And I am so, so grateful that you're in this world and that you came to my podcast and that you stayed and that you're going to do the exercises for the next week to see how it changes your life. And I'm going to say goodbye as the podcast host. And then I'm going to put a few little disclaimers here at the end, as well as an invitation. So the disclaimer, for legal reasons, I am not a therapist. I am a transformational coach specializing in self-love. However, they like us to say, because I am not an actual certified therapist, that this podcast is not meant to replace medical help or professional therapy help. This is for entertainment purposes and educational purposes. I would say education over entertainment. However, I do hope that I'm at least a little entertaining, so we'll go with both. I do appreciate you being here. If you're looking for ways to connect with me, I will put them in the description under this video. I do have a Facebook. It's Meaza Ridley. I have an Instagram, which is Ridley Meaza. I can be found, you can find my group. It is a free private group in Facebook. It is called the Empowered Self Circle, and you can request to join there. I will leave a link for it also in the description below, so it's easy to find. And I do have openings for one-on-one help sessions. I also am opening up a group session coming soon. That's going to be a 3-month session. It will be in a Telegram group. We'll have calls once a week, and we will also have a continual coaching going on in Telegram. And I love those sessions. They're just so good. It allows us to bring a collective together, and we all become this little family, and we help each other, and we support each other. We show up for each other. We hold space for each other. It's just like a huge love fest in these containers. So thank you so much. I'm really so grateful that you came to the self-love conundrum. And I hope that you will join us again for our next episode. Do subscribe to the channel so that you'll receive, oh yes, and hit the little bell, and that lets you know when I post another episode. Until now, love yourself so deeply and so truly. There's nothing in this world more magnetic than someone who loves themselves exactly as they are, and knowing that we are all perfectly imperfect. You are loved. I love you. The world loves you. And you are needed in this world right now. I thank you again. Have the best day ever.